Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Nickens here with another video. Today with Facecam for the first time on like an analysis video ever. So that's so that's gonna be really fun. Today we have the tier list video. I made this tier list video like over a year ago now, and it's crazy the amount of growth that I've gone from a guy with 0 subscribers to 610 subscribers in a year. So very lucky and blessed for sure, and glad to have met a lot of the MLW players just over DMs and things like that, and the support has been amazing over the past year. So very thankful for that, and going to continue and expand and do more things in the future. So this will actually be using like OBS and like an actual tier list instead of me painfully working on dang thumbnails for people for a 30-minute video. This hopefully will be a little bit shorter and more concise, but still have highlights and stuff. So first, with our tier list, one of the coolest guys in MLW, he streams. It's of course Alec Warda, and this year for pitching, he is going to be all the way in F tier. And no diss to Alec at all for his pitching, but his performance this year was less than ideal. If you look at his stats, he had 11 earned runs on 2 hits, 10 base on balls, with an ERA of 99 and 0 Ks and a loss. Definitely not the finest moment for Alec in the 2021 season. So I love you to death, Alec, but unfortunately I have to put you in the F tier for 2021. No disrespect. All right, next up we got BDZ, or Brendan Davenport, for those of you who know him. Kind of came out of the nowhere for most of people, I guess, in the MLW community, but those in the Discord and other places probably know him and appreciate him very much, me being one of them for sure. This year he had kind of an underrated year. Of course, he didn't get out very much until, of course, the bottom trade, which I think was really helpful for him. It gets him some reps and some experience in MLW, and hopefully, looking with the other arms that we'll get to later on the Mallards, maybe a bright future, but that all depends on how the draft shakes up for Brendan and the Mallards. So currently, I think he's on a good team, though, and I would rather be on the Mallards as a rookie than a lot of the other teams who have a lot of great players on them if I want playing time, but that's another thing. So getting into Brendan, he pitched 4.2 innings this year, had 7 earned runs on 6 hits with 8 walks, 10 Ks and a 4.5 ERA with 3 WHIP, so walks with hitters in position. Did pretty well, honestly. Not anything too crazy, not anything too surprising though. A bad pitcher, I don't think he's in D tier. Got an interesting windup that'll definitely kick guys off balance. So currently for this year, I'm going to put him in a C tier, just because we haven't seen enough from him. But he's enough to say he's pretty good. He's a solid pitcher. I think he needs a lot more reps and maybe some work on exactly how to mix batters up currently in the MLW. But good start from Brendan for sure, and I'm excited to see what all he does in the future. Heading into our next guy, we got Brendan Baranowski. Of course, the Cobras' #1 draft pick this year, all the way from Grand Rapids, where Drew's staying. Playing 6 games this year, was the Cobras' official backup to Drew. He was expected to take on that starting role more, but never really fleshed out in MLW. He pitched 12 innings, gave up 21 earned runs on 14 hits and 23 walks. 30 Ks, which is pretty decent on 5.11 ERA, 3.0 WHIP. So kind of a disappointing year from Brendan, especially when you look at the qualities of Brendan Jorgensen in comparison. The winning a championship and having a very stellar season. In comparison, it seems that Brendan was kind of getting used to the different style of wiffle ball than he's used to playing, and it definitely did not help the Cobras this season. Still searching for that second arm, unfortunately, but maybe he just needs some time. A lot of the rookies, for the most part, struggled, so it's not unusual, but it's not out of the norm for rookie pitchers this year. But definitely kind of a disappointing year. I would say that just with the fact that he is a number one pick, did not see much from him, and Drew definitely had to carry the load. I think he only got one win on the season, which is really, really not good if you're trying to put your team in position to win. So unfortunately, Baranowski, Red Baron, is going to go in D tier just because he just needs some more time. I think just if he was an 8 pick, this may be a different conversation. Maybe he gets a little higher, but for him to be able to take that starting role and never really fleshing out, unfortunately, I'm going to have to put him into D tier for this year. Next up on the tier list, we got Brendan Jorgensen. Of course, coming off the World Series championship last year. Very hot start during the regular season, and then in the postseason kind of faded away, and Chris Cheatham, of course, as we all know, came in and really held his own and had that MVP season, basically, that led them to their World Series. And, of course, had that MVP season that really led them into the postseason and won them the World Series. So this year, we kind of got a lot of hot and cold from the Gators, and that kind of makes sense with the way we look at their pitchers. Some days they were on fire, and some days they weren't. And Jorgensen definitely had that kind of season where he was either really on or just meh at best. He pitched 22 innings, had 25 earned runs, 25 hits, 32 walks with 48 Ks, 3.36 ERA, and 2.55 WHIP. Something that takes me to what I think about Brendan Jorgensen could be is that, being the number 1 overall pick and really getting the Mallards off guard this season in their sweep. Series against the Mallards, he only gave up 1 hit in 6 innings, which is really impressive. Not to say when we get to the batting tier list, of course, I'll get to my gripes with the Mallards batting this season. But, very impressive for the most part to absolutely sweep the Mallards with Trevor Bonham. And, it's definitely plays into, even though that they had had some really bright moments on the field, it didn't really end up in the playoffs. They went 2-3, and Jorgensen did not really shine there. Had a 5.14 ERA with 12 Ks and gave up 8 earned runs, and that's just something you really can't do in the playoffs. So love Jorgie a lot, and definitely love his pitching style and his potential. I think he has a lot of great humor, and I love the way he plays. Very just fast, gritty, and just really fun to watch. I recognize that this year statistically, out of starting and secondary pitchers, I think that Jorgensen did not statistically perform in the top 10, and it's really tough. I'm really hovering between an A and a B. I think that just because of the way he has been playing, even though I understand the season that he could have had, I think I'm going to have to put him in A. I think there's a little bit of distance between a tier's distance between Davenport and Jorgensen as players, and even though he did have a little bit of a downtime in the playoffs, I still think the quality of his play when he is doing well is deserving of A tier. Maybe he's not at the top of A tier, but I think he sneaks in for sure. So, next up we got another Gator. We have Brendan Zerlag. This year he pitched against the Eagles for 2 innings and didn't do half bad. I think they still lost the game, and it was kind of a joke of a game pretty much because it was the final series and they were just kind of rearing up for the playoffs when they did eventually beat the Eagles. But so I'm not really counting it to heart that having a 3 ERA in 2 innings it's just kind of one of those things where in reality, if things shake up, like Zerlag is not pitching. I don't think he is in the Alec Warda tier, but I think he definitely belongs in D tier. Just a serviceable arm if he needs to be, but I think that you're definitely going to rely on Jorgensen and Cheatham to do the bulk of your work. And so because of that, I'm putting him in D tier, simply for the fact that he was very much statistically better than Alec, but just definitely not any higher than D tier. All right, now we're on to Caden Irwin, the rookie for the Mallards, second overall pick in this past year's draft. He did pretty well this season. However, it seemed that the Mallards had a lot of pitching struggles, and so he didn't see the field as much as he probably should have for being a number 2 overall pick. Of course, Caden's still getting used to the differences between scuffed, unscuffed, and new speed limit. That took some adjusting for Nick Saylor. It took him a season to really come into his own, and look how much a season's worth of pitching has done for him. Caden didn't get as much playing time as Nick Saylor for the Wildcats last year, but he did get 5 games played, 9 innings, had 20 earned runs, 16 hits off of those 20 earned runs, had 20 Ks. So for every earned run, he had a K, and he had a 6.43 ERA and a 3.0 WHIP. Caden, it took a little adjusting for Caden. He definitely had some games that bumped up his statistics for sure, and so they're maybe a little more deceiving than they should be. And again, I think that he just disappointed in the terms of pitching this year. I don't think he's a bad pitcher, but statistically he just did not live up to what he was supposed to be. I think that in terms of potential, I think he's definitely up A or B tier. But in terms of performance and what he was supposed to be, he's down with Baranowski in D tier. Unfortunately, I think he deserves to be higher, but it's just one of those things where I can't put him really any higher because he's kind of in that same league as Baranowski. I would say that maybe I think Caden has better stuff and potential currently than Baron, but it's just going to take some time. They're going to need a season. More than we thought with the previous rookies. So it's just going to take some time, and that's no diss to them, and I don't think they're bad players. I just think that in the way that things shape out for the season, that's just kind of where I have to put them. Going into Chris Cheatham. Chris Cheatham kind of had the same kind of year, I would say, as last year. And what I mean by that, Cheatham kind of had the same kind of year as last year, and what I mean by that is in the regular season, he was kind of just, doing pretty well, getting some wins, went 4-2, and in the postseason, he did really well, going 2-1, and really dropping down his ERA like he did last year, kind of making sure the playoffs really count. It's a shame that the Gators did end up losing to the World Series champions this year, the Downtown Diamondbacks, but, Chris really fought valiantly and did a great job just putting himself into his own. Had a 3.21 ERA and 2.51 WHIP in the regular season with 54 Ks. And in the postseason, he had 23 Ks, a .82 ERA, and only 3 earned runs. It's pretty impressive, I'd say, the way that Cheatham can just pick himself up into the postseason and really make it count. I think he is just a little bit better than Jorgensen this season, and I think that he definitely deserves an S tier. I think he's definitely deserving of an S tier. I think that maybe he's not at the top of S tier, but definitely a deserving season, and one of the toughest pitchers to hit with a super curve. He can mix you up really well, and just impressive to see what he can do. One of those guys that, even though you don't think he's the most athletic with pulling a wagon every time he has to hit a ball, but in terms of pitching, you pretty much have to respect everything he has. So, all right, so now we're up to the Eagles' former number 2 pitcher, I guess, if you call it that, Clayton Price. So Clayton this year only pitched 2 games for 3 innings, gave up 8 walks, 8 earned runs, 4 Ks, 6.55 ERA, and a 4.10 WHIP. It seems that his pitches are really easily hit, and he's just not going to be able into a place where Eagles can feasibly use him as kind of a pitcher that they can sub in and out, and expect to win games. I wouldn't say that he's bad. I think he's very serviceable, but I would much rather have Dallas or Blade out there rather than have Clayton out there. I think he's got a lot of work to do, and maybe he can bring it back, but I think that for the most part, Clayton is just going to get outmatched by the 2 new young guns, and don't know exactly what his plans are for in terms of pitching, or he really needs to pick up a bat if he wants to really continue in the MLW. He doesn't really have like any signature signature pitch or style to him, and I hope that he's able to either work on it or man, I feel that retirement, or maybe he just gets picked up for, you know, a last second kind of emergency pitching job. But I think that Clayton Price's days in the MLW are coming to a close, and it's unfortunate. So I think because of that, I think I'm gonna put him in D tier because of that. A lot of guys in D tier, unfortunately. Nah, I think to even it out now, I think I'm going to move Caden up to C tier. Much rather have that. I think that's a lot better. Looking at it now and looking at all the guys at D tier, I don't think Caden... I may move Barron up later, but right now, I think that this is a good spot. We'll keep going on. Moving on to another Eagle. We're got a lot of Eagles coming up. We're going on to Dallas Allen, who I think really surprised all of us in his... one of the few rookies to really transition well, relatively, that is, into the MLW and, you know, hold his own. I think some of those pitches just really were able to throw off batters. His stats don't necessarily reflect that, I'd say, with a 4.3 ERA, 3.82 whip. He had 38 Ks, but 41 walks, so got to bring him down a little bit, and 21 earned runs. So nothing amazing, but I think that he has so much potential, especially being such a young guy. I think the Eagles definitely drafted very well and for the future this year. So I'm excited to see what he does next year. I think that because of that, I think I'm going to put him in a solid B tier. Probably one of the best rookie pitchers for sure. But nothing yet where I'm going to say like he's at that superstar level. Definitely Dan is going to be really your grunt work for the Eagles. But definitely a great season for Dallin, and very excited for the future. Getting into the next one, we got Daniel Schultz. So Dan the Man this year had a pretty great season. That's to say that me included and a lot of people were not exactly thrilled going into the season and facing the Diamondbacks' first game of the season and Dan looking really not good. Kind of scared me. I was kind of like, oh man, I'm right. But in reality, you know, it took him a second. He had to settle in, and he pitched absolutely amazing. Even though they did go 1-2 in the playoffs, and they did go 8-7 during the season, got into the playoffs relatively easily with the Mallards dipping. So pitched a really phenomenal season, all in all. 24 innings, only 19 earned runs given up on 54 Ks. A 2.37 ERA and a 1.62 WHIP, pretty nice. And then in the playoffs, of course, he pitched .82 ERA with a 1.09 WHIP, only 3 earned runs given up on 22 Ks. A really good season from Dan. I think that I was really impressed by his resilience overall, and pretty negative going in, but making the playoffs and really holding the Gators to their own is pretty impressive. And I think that for me, I think that definitely deserves S, or double S is really tempting. I think I'm going to put him at the top of S right now in front of Cheatham, but that may change here in a little bit because I'm not super set on it yet. I'm kind of working this as along. So currently he's an S, but he may move up to double S if I think that, you know, if he deserves more. So going on to Drew Davis, a very impressive and solid year for him. Really settled into pitching, and of course we all know him for his batting this year, but I think he did lots of improvements and really kind of helped the Cobras into the postseason. I think that unfortunately their loss to the Magic just came at an unfortunate time, you know, with the momentum the Magic had. And I think that they just had too many answers to Drew and the Cobras didn't have enough answers to them. Of course, Drew and not really showing up in the playoffs, and Andy not really, actually not showing up in the playoffs played a role in that. But overall, really impressive season from Drew. He had a 2.79 ERA, 2.28 WHIP, 66 Ks, really nice, 52 walks, and played really solidly. Even in the postseason, kind of a similar stat line. He 5 earned runs only and 12 Ks, 2.65 ERA. A little bit of some blown leads, but I mean, it's tough going up against that Magic lineup in the postseason. So a lot of credit to Drew for sure, and very impressed with the way that he played this season. And I think that if he continues to improve, I think that he can get up into want to be a top 5, even 3 pitcher in the league. He has such a very unique pitching style. He does a great job of just getting balance batters off guard. I think I'm going to put him in the top of A tier, above Jorgensen. But again, I may change this later, kind of explain my reasoning and figure it all out. I kind of want to have a good balance. Sorry, I'm explaining this halfway through the video, but I want to have a good balance. I don't want to put everybody in A or everybody in anything. I think there needs to be a clear distinction between players, and I think I'm trying to do that well. Maybe some of you are already yelling me at the comments. But yeah, this is just my opinion, and this is just based off this season, not overall. So yeah, getting into it next, we have Gus. Gus pitched for 2 games. He pitched 3 innings and gave up 2 earned runs, 7 walks, 5 Ks, had a 2 ERA and a 2.67 WHIP. Yeah, he pitched an inning against the Magic, and then 2 innings against the Magic in that really weird series later on. Pitched a shutout inning, which was pretty good. I get some control issues, of course, but was pretty impressed at the time when I watched it. Just like that he was able to do as well as he was doing. Again, I don't think he's going to be a reliable arm, and I don't think he's meant to do that. But I think overall, just overall, I think that he played better than he should have. You're not going to get a win out of him, so I think he's probably right below Barron, but above Zerlag in D tier. I think that's a fair placement for him. So first time I get to talk about the Metro Magic this video, which surprise, surprise, they did pretty well. Which is contrary to my video, which is aged very poorly, I might add. But something that hasn't aged poorly is Jack Agner in pitching, which is one of my favorite things to watch. Just because I just love the way he pitches, and he tries 110%. And I feel like I would do the same. I would do as well as him pitching in MLW. Is that trying your best, but just absolutely getting unloaded on. By most players, especially against the Wildcats. And he gave up 7 earned runs on 3 hits, a lot of walks, had a 31.50 ERA and 15.15 WHIP. Basically, he got 2 outs and really just got knocked. So unfortunately, he had to pitch. Yeah, I don't think Jack thinks of himself as a pitcher, nor should I just bash him for being a pitcher, just because he didn't probably sign up to be a pitcher in the first place. I'm going to put him in F tier, but he's not a pitcher. One day, maybe in the future, he could become, an amazing standout pitcher if he works on it. But I think he's more worried about hitting bombs than he is anything else. So I hope that he continues to do that. Once again, going to the Magic, we have James Swanson, a pickup and then kind of put down after Bonham came. A wild time for MLW. Unfortunately, James Swanson is again on a 6-man on a good team, trying to find himself. He did pretty much what he did last year. He gave up 3 earned runs, a few walks, and blew the game, unfortunately, and didn't get a hit. which is unfortunate because I'm really rooting for the guy. I really hope that he does a lot better. I know he has a lot of potential. He could definitely be a second arm. I think he just needs more time. And I mean, he's going up against really tough competition every time. He does pretty well, but just not enough to win the game. And it just sucks. I mean, imagine playing 4 games, getting so close to a win every time, and just something happens. I wish the best for the guy. He only gave up 3 hits, and I think that for James Swanson, he's going to go into D tier, right above, I want to say Gus. He'll be above Gus, but yeah, I think that he just has some work to do, and I just really think he needs some more playing time or practice or something. He just needs that little bit more to take him to being a really good player on a team that needs him. So yeah. Next person up, of course, we have Jason Chadwick. Chadwick played amazing this season. I think the biggest criticism of him last year was that he gave up so many walks, and this year he dropped them down around 30%. Or he dropped them to a third of what there was last year. I think last year he had over 60. This year he only had 40 with 47 Ks, a respectable 3.53 ERA, and a 2.88 WHIP. Really was the workhorse for the Magic this year. Also the workhorse in the playoffs, seeing as Trevor get his groove in going against the Wildcats, which one of the best batting teams in the league. So I think that Jason definitely played very well this year. I was very surprised and happy at the way he played. I think that he definitely deserves the A tier. I think that he's probably above Jorgensen for his playoff performance, just barely edging out. They have very similar stats, and I think that his consistency over time is what gets me. I think that if he consistently improves into next season, I mean, the Magic are definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I think that he's definitely deserving of an A tier. I hope that he continues to improve and gets an S tier, but you know, I think that's probably about where I would place him. I need to, of course, get on my knees and have a big apology for the future MVP, Jimmy Norp. I was dead wrong about my take on Jimmy Norp. But somebody's got to be wrong, right? Someone has to be the negative voice in a crowd of singing Jimmy's praises. Maybe that's the reason he really hit the film. Maybe of course, I'm going to take credit for Jimmy's MVP season because my harsh criticism is what really drove him to become that successful. Not like he already didn't have the talent or anything. He played outstanding. 64 Ks with only 21 walks, a 1.53 ERA with a 1.53 WHIP. I mean, super consistent the whole season, even into the playoffs. 1.17 ERA, 1.63 WHIP, 26 Ks, only 10 walks. Just so consistently, so good. So impressive to see the way that he just continued to improve from last season off that hard start. I don't think it was ever in doubt. I think they were just always destined to win it. And there's nothing stopping them. It was a close final series, but I don't think I ever thought for a second the Diamondbacks were not going to win this series. And so the easiest double S tier of my life. Just the way that he controls his pitches, the way he controls himself on the mound, the way he mixes up batters, the way he knows what they're going to swing at. I mean, what else is there to say? Just give the man his medal, give him his money, buy his jersey. Just he needs something. Also, just follow him on TikTok. He'll become a famous baseball analyst. So yeah. Jonah Heath, the duo, the dynamic duo, if you will, of the Diamondbacks' amazing season. Just pitched so well too, so consistent. Having a guy like that just to back you up is just insane. 36 Ks, only 19 walks, 4 wins, 2 losses, 1.80 ERA, 1.80 WHIP. In the playoffs, did struggle a little bit, but crucial wins, very crucial wins. And, I mean, what else is there to say? Just, I don't think there's anywhere else I can put him either. Jonah Heath is going to get the easiest double S tier of my life. Just so solid, and I don't know what to say. Just having such a mix-up guy as a lefty with such good stuff, and I mean, it just makes for such an amazing season. And this is a fun one. Next up, we have Jordan Kurdy and his pitching debut. He pitched against the Western Wildcats during the season and pitched for 0.2 innings, gave up 2 walks, 0 ERA, and a 3.03 WHIP. So, not bad. I don't think that he's definitely going to be a pitcher anytime soon, but definitely serviceable at the very least. Kind of like a Gus almost. So I think because of that, I think I'm definitely going to have to put him in D tier. Next up, we got the Western Wildcats and Kyle Schultz. Kyle Schultz had, again, pretty much an amazing year. I think any other year, if he wins the World Series, he pretty much wins the MVP. But, of course, there was someone standing in his way this year. And, yeah, he had such an amazing season again. Just so consistently great. Had only 2.17 ERA, he pitched 6 wins, and had 4 losses, so kind of a give and go. But I mean, during the postseason, he had a 1.60 average and only got 2 wins, which is pretty much unheard of. 33 Ks, 20 walks, just so solid. And yeah, I think there's only one place to really put a guy of that caliber, and that, of course, is in S tier. I'm going to put him above Heath, and I think that just he had a very solid season. Of course, he didn't pull out the win, and just a superstar, always a superstar level season from him. Just didn't bring home the wins that they needed in the moments, and you know that just happens sometimes. You're just not the winner. Sometimes one hit changes the entire direction of a game, and I think that next season there's no reason that they don't make the World Series again if they keep playing like this. We got Liam Jackson, the Metro Magic, and oh man, I know that the Liam Jackson rule was based off of him, but he did not show it this year. He was so inconsistent, out of practice, and only struck out 9 people, had 38 walks, a 15.63 ERA, a 7.58 WHIP. It's not good from Liam this year. I don't know exactly what happened, but just really, really not what we expected from him at all. And understandable why they traded for Bonham when they did. So because of that, I think he goes right into F tier, unfortunately. I think that with time, maybe if he practices this year, that he'll be a lot better, but there's not going to be a lot of place for him to have a spot pitching with all the arms that are on the Magic. And just hopefully he finds himself getting some practice or something, because maybe there will be a spot on a new team or something opening up, but just at the moment, he has a lot to work on. So, as Downtown Diamondback, of course, we have Michael Shima. Shima pitched pretty well. I know he has a 7 ERA and a 3.67 WHIP, but don't let that fool you. He pitched 2 shutout innings against the Mallards and kind of just let it up at the end, ran out of gas. They were able to see him more and more. I was very pleasantly surprised, I'll say. But, I mean, into account like where he is and just what he was doing and why he was doing it, there was kind of a joke game for the last one. I think that Shima has some pretty okay stuff, but I think he definitely belongs in D tier. And just not a pitcher. Doesn't claim to be a pitcher, but a good year for him just not pitching, but for some reason they threw him in for a game against the Mallards. So I have to rank him. Sailor. Need I say anything else? Easy double S tier above Jonah. Actually, above Kyle. No offense to Kyle, but I mean, we're going to ring the praise of Nick Sailor, the way that he pitched during the postseason and pitched during the regular season. Just so accurate, so gutsy the way he plays. I think, it looks ridiculous on screen, but it's so gutsy to pitch the way he does, with pitching right at them with balls that look really easy to hit and just striking them down. In the postseason, he had 1 walk with 20 Ks, a 1.33 ERA. That's insane. Like, the way that he was able to command the pitches during the postseason and during the regular season. He had 32 Ks, only 9 walks, 1.50 ERA, and 1.75 WHIP. I mean, what more can you ask for in a pitcher? Just accurate, doesn't give up walks, doesn't give up runs. Easy double S tier. Just so consistent, so great. And yeah, there's a reason they ended up in the postseason. And one of them is definitely because of Nick Sailor. Okay, Rudy Ramirez. All right, getting down to Rudy. He pitched 2 innings, shutout. He's the leader in ERA. But, I mean, of course, he only pitched 1 inning. He only pitched 2 innings, and he shut him out. So, pretty impressed. I don't know why they didn't use him more. Probably because there's a guy on here who did way better as a secondary pitcher. But for that, I think he gets a solid C tier. Just because, he pitched a shutout, and not a lot of guys below him can say that. So, congrats, Rudy. I hope you get a lot more playing time, but we'll see next year. Unfortunately, the batting tier list will not be as kind to you, but pitching, pretty solid, honestly. Ryan Kratch this year, his stats just don't reflect the way things went down this season. You see a guy with 2.16 ERA, 77 Ks, only 36 walks, and he only has 4 wins. 4 wins! I mean, I just don't know what happened to Kratch this season. And it's not to say that I think that this is going to be a hot take, but I think that, you got to clutch up in these moments. And I think he gets the high B tier, almost like a B+. Just, he has to win in those clutch moments. And this year he just didn't. And it's not to say that he didn't play well. It's just everything went against him. And I say it not to say that it's not against a knack against the quality of a player that Ryan Kratch is. I think it's a wake-up call to him and the Preds that, like, they've got to do something. And they've got to be able to be doing something different to be able to really show themselves and show how good they are. And maybe the draft will help them, but yeah, I don't know if you're a Preds, like, what are you going to do? I think the guys above them, just the reason I have them above them is says they won more. Even though they may have not as been consistent, Kratch just needed something to complete the game. And a lot of times, somehow, they just lost the game. Maybe it was one pitch or one error, but something always just was against Kratch this season. And I'm going to maybe say I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt in my mind that he's going to bounce back. But I think for the tier list, I think that I can't knowingly put him at the same level of these other guys who really carried their team into the postseason because Kratch was not being able to do that this season for some reason. So Stephen McGlade, though, Stephen McGlade gets an A tier for me. Kind of put him up there. Really impressive rookie season. Just in terms of pitching, at the plate, not so much, but not as much as I was impressed with him pitching wise. But wow, I mean, 3 solid wins and had a 1.64 ERA, 2.09 WHIP, 24 Ks, had a few walks, but I mean, if you're getting out of jams, like, what else are you gonna do? Didn't make the playoffs, of course, but I mean, really was the impact for the Preds. I mean, those 3 wins kept them in the playoff conversation until the very controversial three-way tie, and they ended up missing out. I think that the combination of those two pitchers are really going to help next season. They just got to find some bats, and that was their problem all along. I think they would have won more games if their defense is better. And I said this last year, and I'll say it again. I think they probably, if you look at their fielding, they're probably the worst fielding team in the league. Stephen McGlade was definitely not the reason the Preds lost this year, and can't wait to see what he does next year. But I think that overall, he really showed his worth this season, and very excited to see what they do next year. I think if Kratch gets himself, back off the floor and really improves himself this season, because I think this is going to be a wake-up call for them, and so definitely expect the Preds to come out swinging this season. Getting on to Tommy, F tier, he's going to be at the bottom, and it's not because he's a bad player. So I don't get this twisted. I don't think that Tommy's a bad player. I don't think he's a bad pitcher. This is purely because of injury and just him figuring it out. He had to figure it out if he could pitch or not. He still has good stuff. He still is trying to figure out how to deal with these new guys coming in, and if he doesn't pitch, that's fine. He's injured for the most part, so I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt on that. And we're just gonna say that, Tommy, I hope you get better, and I hope you continue to improve. I hope you don't listen to the slander and the remarks, but I think that you've got a bright future ahead, and I'm very excited to see what you do with the draft picks, but I would have never made that trade. So next up, and finally for the pitching tier list, this has probably been a pretty long video. We got Trevor Bonham, and Bonham for me is very interesting. He pitched so well, probably my Cy Young this year, but just for some reason could not find the wins. I'm not exactly sure why he couldn't find the wins, and I think that that really hurt him in the long run. Just so consistent though, and so good that I just see his quality, and he's so improved from last year. And I called it one of the things I did get right. So I think that he is deserving of an S tier. I think on a bad Mallard squad, he had a 1.34 ERA and a 1.4 WAR whip, 71 Ks and 17 walks just on the Mallards. His Magic name didn't go so well. I think just for the adversity he faced, the ability to battle so hard while just not being able to win any is just a testament to how good he is. And even though he did have a bad playoffs, I think that just his season alone on the Mallards is just worthy of that S tier. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that McGlade should be an S tier. I think that he is definitely right around here. I think this is good. Future videos coming up. If you stayed to the end, thank you for staying. Future videos, of course. I'm looking to do a prospects video, so a guy that's living in 2.5 hour radius of Brighton, and are looking to get your league out or get your highlights out for MLW. Shoot me a DM. I'm looking for guys that are like 14 and up, kind of high school age, in college, even older, just to see. Interested in looking to prospects and maybe a future draft, and hopefully just looking into what the scene is and what it looks like, and hopefully it can be helpful to both everybody involved. I'm not really doing it. Obviously, I don't make money off of this, or I'm not putting myself in as a guy who lives in currently Western North Carolina. There's no way I could be an MLW, but hopefully this will just be helpful to maybe MLW. I don't know. Those guys have their own things going on, but hopefully this can be helpful to guys who are just looking to get their names out as, I guess, a very smaller channel, or if they have a small channel that somehow, if my very large 600 subscriber can help them. So yeah, just let me know, and DM me on Instagram or Discord if you have me on Discord. If you're not in the Discord, it's in the link in the description. Follow me on Instagram, also in the link in the description. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up. Of course, batter tier list is coming in the future, so make sure you keep your eyes on that. Hope you had a wonderful holidays. I'm sorry this is so late. I kind of got married, and absolutely to my beautiful wife now, so that's amazing. And just got busy with finals and wasn't able to produce a video when I thought I would, but hopefully this is high quality and you'll see all the highlights, and It'll just be great. So thank you so much for all that you do. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.